All right. So last time we have studied about what are the requirements for setting up a plant tissue culture lab and the prerequisites which are essential. Today we are going to talk about the technique of mass propagating plants in vitro, that means using a synthetic medium and away from the entire plant. That means in vivo means within the plant and in vitro means in any container which is a sterile container. Now, there are two aspects here. If you look at your subject matter which is prescribed, you are going to study mass propagation of floricultural plants and medicinal plants. There are two main techniques which we are going to learn here. One is micropropagation. The other one is somatic embryogenesis. Each one of them have their own, what you can say, merits. Now, what is the meaning of micropropagation? If you split the term, micro means small. So your starting material, as you know that the starting material is known as, what is it called? Anybody in the class?
Explant.
Explant.
Very good. So your starting material is an explant, and this explant material, as we'll come to it a little later, can be just about any part of the plant. Why? Because plant cells are totipotent. Who gave the concept of totipotency? Anybody?
Haberland.
Haberland. Very good. And Haberland was a German physiologist. So this, when your starting material is of the size of 1 millimeter and less, then you use it for mass propagation of plants and you call it as micro propagation. Because you are getting the explant from one mother plant, you end up getting genetically identical progeny and you call them as genetically identical progeny are known as clones. Very good. Okay. Now, in vitro, these entire, whatever explant you are taking, we will see that. And we will also take a case study as to how you can design an experiment so as to mass propagate whichever plant you want to do. So this explant, given the proper environment, when I say proper environment, it means the environment inside the culture vessel. Now, this environment is made up of two components. One is the physical component and the other one is the chemical component. So it can differentiate, and on differentiation, it can form either organ, what you call as organogenesis. If it forms an undifferentiated mass of tissue, it will be called as callus. But from callus, not necessary you will get clones. You may get variations which you are going to study separately as soma-clonal variants. Because soma-clonal variants have their own advantages because you can then select elite varieties from them. So these callus cells may give rise to soma-clonal variants, or sometimes they become bipolar and they form somatic embryos. So somatic embryos also have their own advantage because they are bipolar. And when I say they are bipolar, that means they have defined root and shoot meristems. So regeneration. So when you have in vitro formation of entire plant, you call that as regeneration. So 4 important points which you have to notice. One is callus, undifferentiated mass of cells. Second is organogenesis, where in vitro you get differentiation of organs, either root, shoots, then it is called organogenesis. But if you get an entire plant with a root and a shoot, then you call it as regeneration. Now this we already did it in detail, but I will mention only one person here again, Haberland, because he developed that excellent idea and he realized that plant cells being totipotent, they can be regenerated in an in vitro system. And because we are talking about micropropagation, we are talking about commercial propagation of plants, we are going to again emphasize on the work of Morel, and Morel is given the credit of conceiving the idea of in vitro commercial propagation of a very important floricultural plant, that is orchid, known as Cymbidium. So there was a question for you, and I think just one person, somebody wrote Dendrobium. No, it is Cymbidium. And because in orchids, even though there are millions of seeds, they are microspermy. These seeds cannot germinate on their own because they lack the storage material, very important. And you know what is the storage material? Endosperm. They don't have it, so they need a mycorrhizal partner, and only if they get the mycorrhizal partner, the seeds are able to germinate. However, because in a tissue culture medium, you provide with all the nutrients, these microspermy or the minute seeds, they germinate to form what are known as PLBs or protocomb-like bodies. And the beauty of that is, in addition to forming, say, normally what you would expect, that from one seed you will get one plantlet, but here from one seed you get more than one PLBs. So it is a very good technique where you mass propagate these very, very important floricultural plant known as orchids. Then another very important person is Morashige and Skoog. So Morashige and Skoog, they formulated the culture medium, and I said tobacco is a model system. So Solanaceae, for that matter, are very nice to mass propagate, or they are very amenable to any experiment which are using the tissue culture technique, because they have a very good regeneration capacity. And do you know in Maharashtra, which is the area where tobacco is grown? Anybody? They get a chocolate. You can buy a chocolate yourself and eat. Anyone? In Maharashtra, there is an area which is very famous for growing tobaccos. Yes or no? So that I can go ahead. Do you know or you don't know? Have you heard the name Nippani?
Yes.
Nippani is a place where tobacco is grown. And for those of you who have not seen, tobacco seeds are minute, and tomato ke rehte na, aise chote chote seeds rehte hain, and they germinate, almost 100% germination. So it's a very nice in vitro system. So if you get those seeds, if you have an opportunity, you can then grow them in tissue culture. See, tobacco is also grown for flavors. It is not only for the nicotine content, but also as a flavoring agent. But it is a good model system. Suppose you want to carry experiments on transformation, then tobacco is good system, because regeneration is very easy. Now, why do we give the credit to Morashige and Skoog? We told about White's medium. We spoke about Nichols medium. Then we spoke about woody plant medium. But Morashige and Skoog are the main people who formulated a basal medium which can be what you can say very good for any plant system, and the others modified this basal system. Now you know that this basal system, it is made up of macronutrients, micronutrients, sucrose, vitamins. If it is solid, agar. If it is liquid, then no agar. And when I say basal medium means no plant growth regulator. Is that clear? Now, how do you find out what your plant material? Suppose you're going to start an experiment. How will you find out which is an ideal medium for your plant? So I give another very sort of crude comparison. See, you ask a Madrasi, right? He will say idli. And what do you have in the idli batter? Rice and urad dal. Yes? Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. And if you ask Gujarati, what will they say? Dokla. What does a dokla have? Same. Rice and urad dal. Right? Or it can be a modification of that. But the prime thing is that starch and protein. Similarly, Any culture medium, if you look, they will have macronutrients, micronutrients, vitamins. However, the proportion may vary depending on the plant which you are trying to culture. So Murashige and Scoop are the pioneers, and we will show, we have the original article of Murashige and Scoop. I already mentioned that for India being a meteorologically very privileged territory, and also it has a privilege of a locational advantage. See, it has all the UAE countries very near it. It is also European countries are nearby. So as a result, it can become a major hub for these floricultural crops. And when I say floriculture, it means not only of cut flowers, it also means the accessories which go with the cut flowers, that means the foliage. And most of these foliage plants, they are vegetatively propagated. So anything which can be propagated by vegetative method can be very easily propagated by tissue culture method. Now you may wonder, if it is being vegetatively propagated, then why we need a technology? Answer is simple. Anything, if you want to scale up, you have to apply technology. Now in vegetative propagation, suppose you are using stem cuttings. From each cutting, you will be getting just one plantlet, right? Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. However, when you are taking a small section, say axillary bud, and then you grow it in a tissue culture medium, from one axillary bud, you, instead of getting just a single branch, it may give 3 or 4. Now these 3 or 4, you can then again cut them into small segments and you do what is known as a subculture. So you get more number in a very short duration. Now there is one more area which is rapidly developing. It is because in India, labor is cheap as compared to many European countries. So as a result, what they do is they send you the mother plants or the tissue culture starting material. That means what they will give you, they will give you the bottles which contain these micro-propagated plant. What we do, we then go about subculturing them, we mass propagate them. Then once they are mass propagated, we can return the bottles back to that company so that they can take it up for hardening and for field transfer. Or we can establish a entire floriculture industry using these plants, especially say for example tulips. Tulips are not in plants, right? They are mainly from Dutch. And Dutch, Netherlands and Amsterdam, Dutch is the main area or main area for the floricultural industry. But now in that region, because the weather is very severe and labor is very expensive, floriculture is taking a second position. So what they've realized, they're sending these material to our country or countries like us. So they send it to Thailand, they send to Philippines, where labor is cheap, and we also get, we can train people for these skills. Now in any micropropagation technique, there are 4 or 5 stages. So stage 0 is your selection of the explant. Now what do you mean by selection of explant? Your starting material is very important. Suppose your starting material is a field grown plant, then that plant material should be healthy. It should not be diseased. It should have the desired qualities which you are looking at the plant, in the plant. Very often you have seeds, if you have, they become a very good starting material for making your own explants which are aseptic. Now why choice of explant is important? Because if you take a field grown plant, then your surface sterilization step becomes crucial. Chances of contamination are also more. However, if you're starting with a seed material, at that time, what happens is you can surface sterilize the seeds and the seedling which you get is sterile, or you call it as aseptic seedling. Now, once you have selected the proper explant, we'll be talking about it, how it will establish. Stage 1 is the response of the explant. It can either respond by forming an organ, which I already mentioned, organogenesis, or it may just form callus. And from callus, you can get plants. Then, or it may form an entire plantlet. However, because you're talking about mass propagation, you're not interested in stopping at stage 1. You want to multiply in vitro several fold. So if you have a pen and pencil, you can just say, suppose from one explant. Okay, do you have?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any writing material with you? Suppose you get from one explant, you get say 4 plantlets. Okay. So what you will do, you separate those 4, yes or no, and then subculture. From each of them again you get 4. So second time how many you are getting? सोनल बताएगी मेरे को. पहले तुमको 4 मिला, 4 को तुमने सेपरेट किया, हर एक में से 4 मिले, तो कितने हुए?
8.
हाँ?
8.
4 multiplied by 4 is how much better?
Oh, 16. Sorry.
I think अभी ना थोड़ा सा पहाड़े भी याद करो. Correct? Right? Tables. So then next time you're 16 you're going to separate, and then from each one of them you get 4, right? So in this manner, depending upon the number of subcultures that you make, mute your mic please. So depending upon the subcultures that you make, you will get mass plantlets in vitro. However, each one of them should develop a proper root system so that they can survive in field condition. And once you've induced the roots, the final stage is very, very crucial. See, in the laboratory, you may get 1,000 plants, but these 1,000 plants should survive in field condition, which you achieve by a technique known as hardening or acclimatization. So choice of explant, as I said, if you want virus-free plants, then you use the apical meristem. The reason is this apical meristem is devoid of any vascular tissue, and usually viruses are transmitted through these vascular tissues. But if you take an apical meristem, it is normally clean. That means it will not have any virus in it. So because your starting plant material is virus free, you end up getting clones which are also virus free plants. Now axillary bud, normally when there is apical dominance, the axillary bud does not proliferate. But in a tissue culture system, if you're going to take axillary bud as your explant material, this axillary bud will also give rise to multiple shoots. Now leaf, a very good example, coleus. See, naturally coleus, how is it propagated? Coleus, begonia. They're all propagated from leaves. Anybody know, Somnath? Do you know that? Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
So even if you cut small pieces of coleus and then put it in the soil, within no time, it will produce new buds and you will get an entire plant. So these are known material which can be propagated by leaf cuttings. But one very important, what you can say, floricultural plant, anthuriums. All of you know anthuriums, which has a very nice spathe, either red in color or creamish in color. And then the spadix, the type of inflorescence is spadix, where the spathe is the one which attracts. And anthuriums are very much valued. If you go and purchase one single anthurium may cost, as in India at least, it will cost around 10 or something, which is very expensive. So you can mass propagate anthuriums in vitro using leaf. So leaves are cut into small segments and these are then cultured in vitro and you get callus, and from callus you get multiple shoots. Another very nice material to start with is you have the seed, and you can use the inner cotyledons for in vitro culture, or you can take the ovary and you can use the embryos for in vitro culture. Because they are already differentiated, you will get an entire plant. Floral appendages, some cases the calyx, corolla are also used. Anthers are used to obtain haploid plants, but in the anther it should be the pollen grain, because the pollen grains are haploid. So you get haploid plants when you regenerate pollen grains. But if you regenerate anther wall, then are you going to get? What will be the chromosome complement?
Diploid.
Diploid, right? So I think this all of you understand. Now, the factors which are there, like as I said, how do you select? It should be horticulturally important. That means it can be a fruit crop or a crop which is economically important. It can be a medicinal plant. See, Safed Musli, I've seen people are growing now mass scale, and this has brought new revenue to the farmer. A commercial application, both in terms of floricultural crop and in terms of your foliage. Then conservation, anything which is endangered. Ceropegia was endangered, so people micro-propagated it, and very important is to put them back into the forest. And also, what is the need? You just don't do tissue culture for the sake of doing it. There should be a purpose of doing it. So if you want to supply, say, banana, many banana plants are propagated through tissue culture technique because it reduces the lifespan and they get true to type plants. So you get elite varieties. So the farmers select. How do they select? They select depending upon the size and the weight of the bunch. You've seen the entire bunch of banana, right? So that bunch, so mass selection is carried out, and by using that mass selection, they take that underground root stock or the vertical rhizome. And I sent you one small video, if you remember. Actually, they said do tissue culture at home, but it was not tissue culture. That was basically to show you that how many buds are there, because it is a modified stem. So there will be many buds, and these buds can be then cajoled to give multiple shoots. Can you tell me one more example similar to that you would like to do in vitro? Anybody? रोज खा रहे घर में बैठ के chips. खा रहे कि नहीं? I've given you a hint. Potatoes. Yeah. So potatoes can be mass propagated, and you've seen they have those eyes, right? Those are the axillary buds, and if you keep these potatoes for a longer period of time, they start sprouting. And in potatoes, you can also get in vitro tuberization. So you can have microtubers in culture. So in liquid medium, if you modify the medium constituents, then microtubers or baby potatoes can be developed within the tissue culture medium. So this is to represent what are the different types of explants which can be used. So meristematic can be either the, what you can say, the apical bud or the axillary bud, and the leaves. Then floral appendages or stems. Stem segments also respond very well. Seed and embryos can be used as a starting material. And you can see that two cotyledons are being shown here to represent that cotyledon can also be a good material to begin with. Now, I'm going to take a little bit more time, and I want you to write down very important point about sterilization. So why do you want to sterilize any material? Because you want to control the microorganisms. And I'm very sure now it has a greater relevance because you are using hand sanitizer, you're using soap, and you're going to wash your hands frequently. So basically what it does, what is the, what you can say, science behind the entire process is very, very important. Now, how do you control the microorganisms? What are the physical methods? Can anybody tell me? I've told you last time. What is the physical method? See, I'm not going to take names. You have to respond yourself. Yes, please. I told you sterilization technique. Broadly तीन बताया ना मैंने. क्या
Ma'am,
क्या बताया?
autoclaving.
नहीं, autoclave नहीं बोलोगे बेटा. आप बोलोगे physical में heat.
Oven, हाँ, heat.
Heat, isn't it? Heat में you can use either dry heat. How do you use dry heat?
Water oven.
Oven. Okay, and Gayatri is not the only one who is going to answer. Okay, everybody has to answer. And steam, what you're using? So that is moist.
Autoclave.
Autoclave. Autoclave. Okay. And then can you use radiation? And you have to give me an example. See, you have seen sterile needles वगैरह आते हैं ना, एक पैकेट में आता है, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes or no? देखो इंजेक्शन जो आता है, जो भी your syringes and sterile needles or one time use, any of these instruments, they come in packets, isn't it? Single packet. So how are they sterilized? They are sterilized using radiation, right? So radiation can be either ionizing radiation or it can be non-ionizing radiation. So you will, are you taking a pen and pencil and noting down? Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So you will write microbial control methods.
Yes, ma'am.
Physical agent. In physical agent, you will write heat. Heat will be what? Dry. Okay. What about incineration? It is also a sterilization technique, right? You burn the things, but then you cannot use it, right? When you have a hazardous waste, how do you think they will be disposing all these masks and all that? So hazardous waste, if you want to get rid of them, then you will be incinerating it. But if you are going to use the container, then you will be using dry oven. So who is going to repeat? What did I say? Physical agent may. Physical agent, who is going to Sugyani? Physical agent, what did I say? Which are the physical agents I mentioned? Sugyani or I want Sonali? Kamble, तुम्ही सांगणार? Yes, please. Abhijit. You can put it in chat box otherwise. Suppose I can. Abhijit, can you tell me what the physical agent में heat में क्या है?
Heat oven.
Dry heat, dry oven, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And then incineration. What is the meaning of incineration?
Burning.
Burning, correct. And in moist, it can be steam under pressure, right? Steam under pressure, as you know, it can be a pressure cooker or it can be an autoclave. So that will bring sterilization. And in tissue culture, you are sterilizing glassware and you are going to sterilize medium using steam or moist or wet sterilization. Now I have one more question. Right? What is pasteurization? Pasteurization is also a wet sterilization, isn't it? In pasteurization, do they autoclave? No.
No.
They are using, the temperature is above the boiling point of water, isn't it? Yes or no? So you are how you are sterilizing milk by pasteurization, isn't it? So you are not using steam under pressure. So if you are going to use steam under pressure, that is in an autoclave, so that is sterilization. But if you want to disinfect, then in pasteurization, you are not using pressurized system. Is it clear to you all? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. Then radiation ionizing, you can use X-ray, or most important is gamma rays. Gamma rays are used to make it pyrogen free, or you say sterilization. But non-ionizing radiation, laminar airflow में UV रहता है ना? How many of you have observed that you put on the UV for some time before you use the laminar airflow? So you are saying you are disinfecting. So I'm using two different words. I'm using a word called sterilization, and I'm using a word called as disinfection. Is that clear? I'm going to tell a little bit more about it a little later. Then chemical agents. There are chemical agents in gaseous form. Can anybody tell me one example? Yes or no? Anybody? Any chemical agent which is okay, ozonization. Okay, fine. Anything else? Who said ozone?
Atif.
Okay, not bad. Bolo. Ethylene oxide gas. Okay. Ethylene oxide gas is a gaseous agent. It can be used both for sterilization and for disinfection. Now liquids. तुमको कुछ लग जाता है तो क्या लगाते हैं हम लोग? Suppose you are a human being, तो लगाती हूँ ना मैं tincture. Hi Anna. Have you seen in the department there is tincture iodine, spirit?
Yes.
Antisepsis. Isn't that infection nahi hoye? Antisepsis. You say antiseptic agent. So if it is living, then that is a word you will be using. But if it is non-living, say for example, you have any instrument or something which you want to disinfect, then you use the word disinfection or sterilization. Say you use scalpel, forceps, all these. If you use liquids for disinfecting, see you dip it in 70% alcohol, isn't it? I will be coming to that. How alcohol is a disinfecting agent. Then the term that you will be using is disinfection or sterilization. Now mechanical methods, can anybody tell me? I told you something which is thermolabile. How do you sterilize it? Using ultrafiltration. Very good. Using ultrafiltration. Isn't it? You can also sterilize air. बताया ना? Air को कैसे filter किया आपने? HEPA filter बोला ना? HEPA filter. And I said bioreactors में जो air जाएगा, you get those filters, right? Which have those membranes, so that the air air inlet is sterile air. Then liquids also you can, which is thermolabile constituents are there. Then liquids you are sterilizing using membrane filters, which can be made up of cellulose acetate, it can be nylon, isn't it? Bataya na aapko? So you can have membrane filters. Now why do you need nylon? Why you cannot use only cellulose acetate? Nylon filters क्यों use कर रहे हैं? Have you thought about it? You have to ask me questions, then even I will think, right? Why I need to use nylon? Okay, I'll give you a clue. Suppose something can dissolve cellulose. So you have solvents like DMSO or solvents which can solubilize cellulose. तो क्या हो जाएगा? Membrane ही फट जाएगा ना? So that time you have to use a nylon filter. So use a nylon filter for sterilizing liquid which will solubilize cellulose. Now write down definition of disinfection. Can anybody tell me? Disinfection means, I'm going to give you the exact definition, destruction or removal of vegetative pathogens, but not bacterial endospores. You know, bacteria can make endospores which can remain, what you can say, they can remain for a very long period of time, but they can revive once favorable conditions return. So disinfection is only, you are only killing the ones which are in vegetative state. Sterilization, what does it mean? Removal or destruction of all viable microorganisms. And the word sterilization normally is used for inanimate, that means not animals. So for plants, you can use the word sterilization. But for animals, you use the word disinfection. And antisepsis का मतलब क्या है? Chemicals applied to body surface to destroy or inhibit vegetative pathogens. So chemicals applied to body surface to destroy or inhibit vegetative pathogens. Is that clear? Yes or no? Now, when you are doing heat sterilization, okay, so you require a longer period of time to kill. It can also kill endospores, no problem. But the duration required is longer. But when you moisten it, that means you're reviving them. So at that time, the duration required is less. So moist sterilization or wet sterilization is always more effective as compared to heat or dry sterilization. Now write down certain words. Decontamination. So what is decontamination? Decontamination means destruction or reduction of number of undesirable microorganisms. Now when I say microorganisms, they include all fungi, bacteria, and viruses. Sepsis. Can anybody tell me sepsis का मतलब क्या है? Growth of microorganisms in the tissue is known as sepsis. So obviously antiseptic का मतलब क्या होगा? I gave you definition right now. What is an antiseptic? Antiseptic is something, a chemical which is applied to the body surface to destroy or inhibit vegetative pathogens. Sanitization means what? A cleansing technique that removes microorganisms and debris from inanimate surface. So you decontaminate a surface. Minor airflow bench is decontaminated by 70% alcohol, either ethyl alcohol or isopropyl alcohol. Remember, methanol is not used. I'll tell you the reason for not using methanol. Now, what is sterilization? Sterilization is removal or destruction of all microorganisms. Is that clear to you all? Now let us see what I have used here for sterilizing the explant material. Now what did I say in the beginning? Depending upon the origin of the explant. Suppose your explant is from field condition. So if you are bringing explant from field, I'm taking cuttings from the plants which are in the nursery, or I'm taking cuttings from an area which is totally exposed. It means that it will have large number of surface contaminants. So as a result, you will need a sterilizing agent which is harsh. But suppose I'm sterilizing seeds, then I need a comparatively a sterilizing agent which is not harsh. Why? The seed has a protective covering which is the seed coat. So what I'm doing during sterilization is surface sterilization. So whatever contaminants are present on the surface of the explant, I'm going to kill them, or I'm trying to kill them. Here I have given you a method of mercury chloride, but you please write down. I'm giving one more method. Are you writing down? So seed sterilization. When you are sterilizing seeds, you're not going to use mercury chloride because mercury is not a preferred sterilizing agent because the vapors may cause detrimental effect on human beings. So normally you avoid using mercury chloride, but if the contamination is more, then you really don't have much choice. So what I will do, if I have started with a seed material, then I use sodium hypochlorite. Okay. Now, when I use sodium hypochlorite and I add phosphate buffer to it, pH 6.5, then what happens? Chlorine is liberated, and that chlorine is a disinfecting agent. I'm very sure you immediately correlated that when there is rainy season, water is disinfected by chlorination. Are you correlating? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes, somebody answer.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So you will take seeds in conical flask, and this conical flask, how have you sterilized it? By using autoclave, that means steam sterilization, and you put the seeds in it, and in that you are adding sodium hypochlorite. Usually the concentration is between 50, it's around 3 ppm to 50 ppm. And then you add buffer, phosphate buffer of a pH 6.5 to liberate chlorine. Now all these procedures you do under a laminar airflow because you want to do under sterilized condition. Then using your hand, you're going to swirl it so that it will mix properly, and you will continue the sterilization process for 15 minutes. Now, does anybody have any idea how does chlorine act as a sterilizing agent? Anyone? How do you think? See, I'm going to talk about ethanol. I'm going to talk about de-sterilizing agent. What do? They must be interfering with some mechanism in the microorganism so that the microorganism will die or it will not be able to grow any further. Now, chlorine is being used as a disinfecting agent for many years. Bleach use करते हैं ना? अभी भी आपके बिल्डिंग में सब आके करके गए होंगे ना स्टेरिलाइजेशन? हाँ कि नहीं?
Yes, ma'am.
ब्लीच ही डाल रहे हैं ना, जो स्प्रे कर रहे हैं. So how does it affect? So chlorine, basically what it does is, if you recall, the major part of any cell is made up of, besides water, okay, they are made up of proteins. See, that is why everything should be moist, because it will be effective only when it is hydrated. There is water in the cytoplasm, and only any of your disinfecting agent or your sterilizing agent is going to work. So therefore you never use a concentrated ethanol. ऐसा नहीं सोचना कि अरे 100% ethanol use किया तो सब तुरंत मर जाएगा. No, it will only take care of the external surface, but inside it is not going to effect in any way. So therefore, you require water. So chlorine, how does it affect? It oxidizes the sulfhydryl group on the amino acid. Can you tell me any amino acid which has sulfhydryl groups? SH group रहता है ना? Any amino acid? Gauri? Can you tell me name of one amino acid? Anybody in the class, Sadaf knows? Any amino acid which has a sulfhydryl group? Anybody? SH group you know, right?
Thymine.
No. Cysteine. Cysteine is an example of an amino acid having a sulfhydryl group, and when this is broken, obviously the enzymes which contain this amino acid will be permanently denatured, and the metabolic process in the microorganism will be hampered. So chlorine requires more time. However, the endospores are not much affected by chlorination. So chlorine will take care of only the vegetative cells. So vegetative cells are killed because chlorine affects the sulfhydryl group on the amino acid and breaks the disulfide bridges, due to which the enzymes containing these amino acids are denatured. Is that clear? Now, when you are using bacillocide and Bavastin is an antifungal agent. Again, the effect is same. They bring about interfering with the cellular proteins, and as a result, the metabolism is hampered. Now, when you use a bacillocide, it contains twine. Twine is a surfactant. What do you mean by surfactant? Surfactant means surface altering agent. They mainly solubilize the membrane lipids. So in soap, what you have? Soap contains surfactants, and these surfactants, they dissolve the membrane, and as a result, once the membranes are ruptured, obviously the sterilizing agent will be able to penetrate in a better manner, and the inner components will be exposed. So when you say you wash your hand with soap, so even the coronavirus, what does the membrane contain? It mainly has lipids and proteins. So these lipids will be what you can say dissolved, and as a result, the inner nucleic acid will be exposed. Is that clear? So washing your hand with soap is definitely a better method of preventing infection, because whatever is present on the surface will be taken care of. So usually when you are sterilizing the explant material, you treat it initially with a bacillocide, so that whatever surfactants are present, they will solubilize the membrane, so penetration of the sterilizing agent becomes better. A mild sterilizing agent is hypochlorite, in which you liberate chlorine so that it will act as a sterilizing agent. How does chlorine act as a sterilizing agent? It breaks the oxidizes the sulfhydryl group and breaks the disulfide bonds, due to which the protein and the enzymes containing these amino acids are denatured. And once the amino acids are denatured, obviously the enzyme is permanent or the metabolic reactions are hampered. But chlorine is comparatively a mild disinfecting agent, and duration required is anywhere between 1 minute till 30 minutes, depending upon the amount of contamination. Now, after that, what you have to do, you have to decant. You have to remove the sterilizing agent and rinse several times with sterile distilled water. Now, when I say sterile distilled water, how do you make sterile distilled water? You're going to autoclave the water in container and cool it to room temperature, keep it in the laminar airflow and use it when you are doing the sterilization step. Second is you have a two-step sterilization. If the contamination is very heavy, then what you do a two-step sterilizing procedure. Now in that first step, you are sterilizing with a harsher sterilizing agent, that is 0.1% aqueous mercuric chloride. Again, interfering with the metabolism of the microorganism, resulting in its death. Time required is much less because mercury, if it penetrates inside, then it may render the cells non-viable or the explant may die. Therefore, you use it only for a minute, rinse it 3 to 4 times with sterile distilled water. After that, what you're doing, you're taking one more step for precaution. You're treating the explant material for a very, very short duration, only 10 seconds, with 70% ethyl alcohol. Remember, whether it is the instrument used in tissue culture, like your forceps, scalpel, you dip it in 70% ethanol, never in absolute. It is always 70% ethanol. If ethanol is not available, then isopropyl alcohol can also be used. Here we are talking about sterilizing the explant material. So you just 10 seconds, you bring the explant material in contact with 70% ethyl alcohol. Now, ethyl alcohol, why 70%? This is very, very important that you should know. What does ethyl alcohol do, or alcohol as antimicrobial agent? Now, what are alcohols? They are colorless hydrocarbons with one or more OH group. That's the functional group. Now, this alcohol, how does it affect? First thing, it will dissolve the membrane lipids. It will disrupt cell surface tension, and very, 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 very important, you require hydration. That is why you never use absolute, you use 70%. Anything above 50% is effective sterilizing or antimicrobial agent. So then what they do is coagulate the proteins which are present. So if the proteins are coagulated, obviously the entire cellular mechanism will come to a standstill. But suppose I use 100% alcohol, what will happen? It will only dehydrate the cells, but it will not bring about protein coagulation. I'm repeating again, you need some amount of water for facilitating the coagulation process. So anything above 50% to 90% is a good sterilizing agent. Now, if alcohol is not available, ethanol, then you can use isopropyl alcohol. You don't use methanol. Why you don't use methanol? One, it is poisonous. So it is not recommended for usage by human beings, because obviously we are going to be the ones who are going to do the sterilization. And it is not advisable to use methyl alcohol as a microbiocidal agent because it is poisonous, and at the same time it is not very cost effective. It is more expensive than ethanol and isopropyl alcohol. So how do they affect? What did I say? What is the important take-home message you have? How do the alcohols act as antimicrobial agents? What did I say?
Protein coagulation.
Yes,
Protein
very,
coagulation.
very important. They coagulate the proteins. And when they coagulate the proteins, what happens? Obviously, you require a water molecule for this coagulation process, and therefore you need aqueous ethanol. Now, can anybody tell me, suppose you had any injury or something, they put something on your wound, right?
Yes.
तो क्या है वो?
Spirit.
स्पिरिट के अलावा, स्पिरिट तो मैंने पहले बता दिया. हाइड्रोजन peroxide.
Yes.
Yes or no?
Yes.
Do you recollect? किसको याद है क्या?
Yes, ma'am.
Hydrogen peroxide is also very effective, around 3% concentration, and in just few seconds, it is a good antimicrobial agent. Okay. Then tincture iodine. Tincture iodine is also a good antimicrobial agent. Now, though the one which is very effective on endospores also is 2% glutaraldehyde. However, in plant tissue culture, we are using surfactant like twine. Then we are using some bacillocide and fungicides initially to get rid of the surface contaminants. And then contamination, if the levels are not more, then you prefer using a chlorination method using sodium hypochlorite. If contamination is higher, that means you are collecting the explant from field, then you are going to use mercury chloride in a two-step sterilizing reaction. So what you do, first you sterilize with mercury chloride and then you sterilize very quickly with ethyl alcohol. After this, you are going to rinse very well because you don't want any of the sterilizing agent to remain on the surface of the explant, because you don't want the plant material to be affected. You want only the microorganisms to be killed. And this aseptic, when I use the word aseptic, it means an explant from which the surface contaminants have been removed. So this aseptic plant material is then inoculated on the growth medium. Is that clear to you all? Yes? Anybody?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, here I've taken one case study. This is a medicinal plant. At the same time, it is a source of a very important enzyme, which all of you know, that is a peroxidase. Now, horseradish is actually a temperate plant. It doesn't grow in our country, even though some hilly regions, they do grow it, but it doesn't form tuber. It belongs to the family Cruciferae, Armoraceae rusticana, and our lab has been using this material for doing many studies on peroxidases. So it is a very good, again, a very good system, in vitro system for carrying out a lot of research work. So there you can use the petiole. Petiole is what? Stalk of the leaf. Even that is a good, highly regenerative, or you can use leaf segments, or you can use nodal segment. So what I'm going to do is surface sterilize using mercury chloride and ethanol, and then I will be inoculating it on culture medium. Now all these procedure, as you can see, the laminar airflow, the area around the flame is a dry heat, which is also sterile. So area around the flame is sterile. So you carry out all the techniques under the laminar airflow. And as you can see, the forceps have been placed in spirit. If you do get ethanol, ethanol would be a better sterilizing agent. And then you flame the forceps. Why do you flame? So that all the microorganisms which are there will be killed. Now, this is a typical plant tissue culture incubation area where temperature in the room is maintained 25 degrees centigrade plus minus 2. So the air conditioner is thermostatically controlled, that you don't need very low temperature. At the same time, you don't need a temperature which is very high. And you can see there are several different types of containers. There are some, this is our lab, okay? You can see the jam bottles, then you can see the culture tubes, and then maybe magenta box. I should be able to, yeah, the magenta box is here, which you cannot see. Then the racks, which are both polypropylene as well as stainless steel. The caps are screwed caps, polypropylene, so that they will give the required, what you can say, it will render the inner area sterile. Now, because the temperature is 25 degrees centigrade plus minus 2, the rate of metabolism of these plants is very slow. You need to remember that, because later on when I'm going to talk about acclimatization, I'm going to talk about this particular point. So what you can see is, okay, you can also see there is a wine bottle here, and this entire medium has been laid on the lower surface, so I get a large surface area. This becomes very ideal when I want to germinate the orchid seeds and I get protocomb-like bodies. So I get lots of protocomb-like bodies, and to work with this bottle, I need a forceps which is quite long. I showed you right in the beginning. Now, which is the medium which I will choose? I will normally choose a MS medium. But how do I find out what is the plant growth regulator that I need? So a pilot experiment has to be initially conducted by making just 5 test tubes. Why you make 5 test tubes? Because your experiment should be statistically correct. So if I make 5 test tubes, and each test tube, if I take only 20 ml of medium, then what is the total amount of medium I'm going to make? What is the total amount of medium I'll make? I'm taking 5 test tubes. I require only 20 ml of media. So what is the total amount of medium I'm going to make? Are you 5 multiplied by 4, 20 multiplied by 5. 100 ml. See, you need to know this. I'm so sorry about it. So I'll be making 100 ml, but to take care of that extra, like I'm going to sterilize, if I spill or something, I will make around 125 ml culture medium. So accordingly, I will be calculating. So every time I'm not going to make 1000, because I'm going to carry out a pilot experiment in which I will be trying out some plant growth regulators to see how my explant or how the explant is responding. Now, can you give me any idea? I'm going to give you a 10 minutes break, and after that, you'll tell me a single idea how you can say, how will you choose what is the amount of plant growth regulator that you will be using. So with that, DB sir,
हाँ मैडम,
आप पॉज कर दीजिए, इनको 10 मिनट का ब्रेक है, वापस आएंगे तो ये मुझे बताएंगे.
ओके.
Yes, ma'am.
See, basically, how you choose is you take MS medium and then you make a Punnett square. Okay, so in Punnett square, if you remember, when you did Mendelian inheritance, you were using that Punnett square, right? You made those 16 combinations. Similarly, on one side, you take cytokinin and other side is auxin. So normally what you do is you use a cytokinin which shows a good response like benzyl aminopurine, and then you use an auxin like IAA. Your control will be without any PGR. So it will be just MS plain. And then you can choose couple of combinations, say where auxin concentration is more, cytokinin is less, or vice versa, and make 5 test tubes and do an initial screening to see where your explant is responding. And depending on that, you can then design your experiments later. Now your growth medium normally for establishment is a solid medium. But for multiplication, a liquid medium is often preferred. Why? Because in liquid medium, due to agitation, oxygen dissolves well and you get good amount of oxygen to the growing cultures. However, having said that, there is a disadvantage of using liquid medium because in liquid medium, if you see, you have to imagine hydrilla किससे दिखता है, transparent दिखता है ना, that is called vitrification. You get something like glassy. There is too much of water inside, so later on, if they are vitrified, then there is a huge issue during acclimatization. Then use a plant growth regulator. There is an array of plant growth regulators which are used, and I've already taught you cytokinins, then auxins, then you have gibberellins. And other medium supplements, I have already told you, like you can have coconut liquid endosperm of coconut, or you can have tomato extract, yeast extract. Now these are casein hydrolysate. The ones which are not defined, they are known as undefined medium supplements. Agar is normally used as a gelling agent, but then you can also get other gelling agent like, why is it not? Okay. You can have other gelling agents like Gelrite. Now, last time when I explained, I showed a straight medium where agar was solidified by keeping the test tube straight, but here it is tilted at an angle, and as a result, you get a slant. Why a slant is preferred? Because there is more surface area available for growth. Therefore, slant is preferred in a solid medium. Now, shoot multiplication, you require a PGR, as I mentioned. Normally, it is cytokinins and auxins in synergy. That means some plants may prefer more cytokinins, some may prefer more auxin. However, you are interested in number of shoots. Now, these are subcultured so that you are amplifying the multiplication rate. Now, in vitro, when the shoots are produced, if they are many in number, they get crowded. And then at that time, you can observe some shoots will be small, some will be larger, and some will be medium. The reason being they are competing with each other because they are competing for space, they are competing for nutrients which are available. Therefore, it is better when you want to wean them out, when you want them to be ready to transfer, at that time, the number of shoots in one container should be made less. Usually, when you get multiple shoots, they are slightly in the form of a rosette. That means internodal growth is less. To promote internodal growth and to get a normal shoot, you add GA3 in the culture medium. You know that one physiological effect of GA3 is internodal elongation. So internodal growth is promoted by addition of GA3 to the culture medium. Subculturing interval will depend upon the plant. Some plants are very rapid or they show a very rapid multiplication rate. So as a result, you might have to subculture them more frequently because the medium gets depleted very rapidly or the nutrients will become less. So thereby, when you subculture them to a fresh medium, they will start growing more vigorously and they'll be more healthy. Now you can see there's a picture of multiple shoots, and as I mentioned, see, look at them. Hardly you can see any of the nodes. So they are all clustered together or they are showing more or less like a rosette morphology, and there's an entire plantlet at the base. There are roots which are available. Now, basic botany is also important. The roots are arising from not directly, right? It is not a taproot. They are all adventitious roots. A taproot system is better It gives more stability and sturdiness to the plant. So for acclimatization, you require good roots. Then only they will get acclimatized rapidly. Now root induction, in this case, as you can see, during the multiplication itself, roots have been produced. So you get an entire plant, and you know that the word which is used is regeneration. But suppose you get only shoots, then you will have to go to a third step, that is root induction. All of you know that a plant growth regulator which promotes root induction is known as, anybody? Indole? Not only auxin, but one particular auxin, indole butyric acid, isn't it? So indole butyric acid is a auxin which promotes root induction. So it signals the genes which will result in differentiation of plant cells, resulting in root morphology. So the growth medium, when it is supplemented with IBA, again the concentration required is very less, about 0.2, and that will result in proper root growth development. So you can see, as you can, that medium, in the medium you can see nice long roots which are there, indicating that roots have been developed, and these plants are ready to be separated, so each one of them grow properly and then they can be acclimatized. Now the last stage, that is the fourth stage, which is known as acclimatization or hardening. Very important. In a tissue culture system, what is a plant getting? Ready-made, the way you get ready-made notes. So you don't refer to any textbook or reference book. Similarly, even though the plants are green, they are capable of photosynthesis. They are not going to do that because khana, mast khana, ready-made khana mil raha hai, right? So you are giving source of carbon, sucrose, you are giving all the macro micronutrients, you are giving the amino acids. So it has to spend minimum energy. Then it is in air conditioned room. So the temperature is 25 degrees centigrade. Rate of metabolism is less. What is the humidity? Within the culture vessel, you have added only 20 to 25 ml of culture medium, and the total volume is 60. So there is a head space, and that head space has oxygen which is used by these plants for respiration. At the same time, there is enough humidity. Humidity level is more than 90%. So if humidity is 90%, what do you think? Will there be transpiration or no? Yes or no? Are you with your notebooks, girls? Will there be
Yes, ma'am.
transpiration? Huh?
Yes.
Then what do you need for transpiration?
Ma'am,
What
can
do you
you
need for
repeat?
transpiration? I said within the culture vessel, because Gauri, you don't pay attention.
No, ma'am, the voice is getting stuck.
Neg voice, is it breaking?
There is a unstable internet at my place since yesterday.
Okay. Now in the culture vessel, the humidity is more than 95%. So how will be the transpiration? Transpiration will be less, more, or no transpiration, what it will be? Tell me. Why you all not need to think so much? अरे तुम बारिश में कपड़े सूखते हैं? बारिश में कपड़े सूखते हैं कि नहीं सूखते हैं? बताओ.
नहीं सूखते.
हाँ, क्यों नहीं सूखते हैं?
More moisture.
Right. So there is no difference, isn't it? So there should be a difference in concentration of water vapors, isn't it? So why do you get transpiration? Within the stomatal chamber, you have some amount of water vapor, and outside also you have. So if the difference is more, water will be lost. So if humidity is more, water will not be lost, isn't it? So there'll be very less transpiration, or they'll be negligible. And for transpiration, what do you need? From where is water lost? Which are the this thing in the plant? From where do you get transpiration?
Stomata.
Okay, stomata. Then where else? What do you say in a zero
Aerial. Aerial parts of plant. Aerial
Lenticel,
parts of plant.
Aerial, not aerial. What did I say? Stomata is one. Then
lenticels,
lenticel. Then epidermis is covered by what?
Cuticle.
waxy
Okay,
cuticle,
xerophytic plants. What do they contain? Thick cuticle, isn't it?
yes,
How do they prevent transpiration due to the presence of thick cuticle, then wax, cutin? So all these are adaptations so that transpiration will be lowered. So obviously in tissue culture plant, what you will be having? Thin cuticle, no cutinization, no development of surface, because it doesn't need all these. You have a condition where relative humidity is very high. Transpiration is absolutely negligible. But very, very important is the stomata, even though they are present, they are non-functional. So what do you mean by non-functional stomata? They do not open and close. So in a tissue culture plant, what will be the type of mode of nutrition?
Heterotroph.
What is the mode of nutrition?
Heterotroph.
Heterotrophic.
heterotrophic,
Why heterotrophic? Even though they are green plants, they are not photosynthesizing because you have given them ready-made food. So the type of nutrition is heterotrophic. And when you are hardening or when you are acclimatizing, you want it to synthesize its own food material. That means it should start photosynthesis. So you are weaning it from heterotrophic mode of nutrition to autotrophic mode of nutrition. So you'll make two columns. In one column you write tissue culture plant. In another column you write hardened plant. So in tissue culture, what you are going to write? Heterotrophic mode of nutrition. In hardened plant, you will write autotrophic mode of nutrition. Then what you will write? Stomata. In tissue culture plant, how was the stomata?
Non-functional.
Non-functional. Non-functional. In hardened plant, what you will write?
Functional.
Yes, tell
functional,
me. Urvashi. Is Urvashi there or not?
Yes.
She has left already.
Yes, ma'am.
So in hardened plant, how is the stomata?
Ma'am, functional.
Tissue culture plants, stomata non-functional because they are not closing and opening. They are present, but they are non-functional. In hardened plant, they are functional. That means they will open and close. Then in tissue culture plant, cuticle thin, no cutin, no wax formation. In hardened plant, epidermis is covered by proper cuticle, cutin development, and wax formation. All these are measures for reducing transpiration so that the plant will not wilt. So what does it mean? During the hardening process, you have to gradually wean the plant from a very favorable situation to a situation which is hostile or which is existing in field condition. So you have to wean them out. And how is the light illumination? In tissue culture lab, you are providing cool fluorescent light. So the light intensity is low. In field condition, light intensity will be more. Then in tissue culture lab, temperature is 25 degrees centigrade plus minus 2, which is very comfortable. But in field condition, temperature is much higher. So for all these changes, you have to gradually wean the plants from 5-star condition to normal existing condition in the field. And during the process, all the plants should survive. So your commercial success depends upon, suppose you have 100 plants in the tissue culture lab, then all 100 should survive. You say 100% success. Otherwise, depending on the number, you will say 80% or 90%. So your commercial feasibility will depend upon the number of plants which can be hardened or which can be acclimatized and transferred to field condition. Now, how is it done? It is done by various processes. And in the laboratory, when you are doing at small scale, you may use a simple method wherein you can take container in which you are growing, or rather you have transferred these plants. You have to first wash them thoroughly so that all agar which is sticking to them will be removed. And then you transfer them to a sterile potting material, which is usually coco peat, or it can be vermiculite or perlite. So these can be sterilized, and then you irrigate them with Hoagland's nutrient solution, which is mainly macro and micronutrient. But that you cannot do suddenly because the plants are not used to it. So you have to wean them out. So you transfer them first to MS medium containing half strength. That means if you have added 100 ml of macro, now you will be adding only 50 ml. And then if you have given 3% sucrose, you will add only 1.5% sucrose. So gradually you have to make them realize that, oh, come on, now you have to develop good root system. You have to start making your own food material, or you have to start photosynthesizing. Initially, you cover these plants with another cup with few holes on it so that the humidity is maintained. And then you open or remove the cup for some interval of time so that they are exposed to the external air, and you have to ensure that during that process they will not wilt. Why they will wilt? Because their stomata are not yet properly functioning. Once the cutin development, wax and cuticle develop and stomata start closing and opening, these plants are ready to be transferred to the. In commercial tissue culture, this is achieved in a greenhouse condition, which we will be studying in detail later. Now, the factors which influence a success of micropropagation for any plant will depend upon choice of Eric's plant, then the growth medium which you have standardized along with the plant growth regulators. The physical condition are the environmental factors. So environmental factor will be temperature, it will be humidity, it will be oxygen also. And your type of culture vessel, and depending upon the subculturing interval and depending on the number of subcultures, you can get mass propagation of plants. So I'm going to stop here, because next we will be looking at each of these factors, how they affect and how you can control them so that you can optimize the entire process. You have any difficulty till now? You can ask if you have anything to ask. Any difficulty? Why you have no answer?
No difficulty.
Anyone has any question? So you will be showing me how you will make, rather, suppose if I tell you mass propagate Vidania somnifera, okay, any plant. And then you will make a ray diagram and tell me how you will make, how you will choose the auxin cytokinin. Don't look at the literature. You have to on your own do it. So make a flow sheet starting from explant material, then sterilization, then how you will design your growth medium, how you will make different combinations, and how you will be doing. Okay, with this I stop here because I think you have a test also.
Yes, ma'am.
DB Singh sir, you can
Ah,
stop.
Okay, madam.